Hello, everyone. My name is Kaylin Jean-Louis. I am an on-air personality for WANM 90.5, the Flavor Station, the host of Feel Good Vibes and Motivation on Mondays from 4 to 6. And I have the distinct honor of having Devon and Kendra, the creators of the Real Mama podcast. They're both FAMU alumna who became college best friends, and they've experienced a lot of WTF moments in mamahood, and they are here to talk about their journey. So, ladies, how are you feeling?
We are
good.
Wonderful.
Happy to be back home.
Yes, it feels good. It feels good.
I know everything during homecoming is nice to be able to reunite with everybody, right?
Man,
Yes.
it feels great to be back on the hill.
So let's get right into the interview. You know, what inspired you both to start the Real Mama Pod, and how did your own experiences shape the podcast vision?
Ooh. Well, so Devon and I, like you mentioned, we're best friends, and we both had kids around the same time. And we learned that there were a lot of things that no one told us about being moms. And all of our conversations, like we were on the phone talking about all these things, all these WTF moments. And Devon was like, why don't we put this on the mic and start a podcast? So it was like, that's actually not a bad idea. So that's why, or how we created the Real Mama Pod. It's real honest conversations about motherhood. A lot of those things people didn't tell us. And we bring stories to our platform for other moms to be able to learn about, you know, what motherhood really looks like. So, yeah.
Yes, and we have a large, rich auntie community. So even if you're not a mama, we still cater to you as well as dads. We also formed a baby group, Baby Fevers and Mamas, like 8 years ago. I think the first kid turned 8 already. Anyways, It's a lot of FAMU rattlers in there, and it turned into like this safe space and community for mamas or people who are thinking about even becoming a mama. And so we could ask all these questions and just have community. So yeah, I kind of started from those two things.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And I mean, I know I've created, you know, some of my strongest connections so far at FAMU. I know having that bond as best friends definitely means something. But what role did your time on campus play in your journey toward building this platform?
That is a great question.
That is.
So it's funny that you asked that, because we actually have a scholarship going on for mamas at FAMU. Wow. And so we were able to raise $1,500. So we have 3 $500 scholarships that were given to mamas at FAMU. And that's all from our community. We put it out there. We said, hey, we gave them 3 days too on top of that. Like, this is something we want to do. We're going back to FAM. We want to pour into the mamas at FAM, because not even being a student, being an adult with a career and being a mom is hard. So I can imagine being a student. And so we were like, we want to give back. And so our community really stepped up for us. And on the podcast, like, there's a rattler, at least half of the episodes that we have, there's a rattler present. So that's how our rattler community has still, like, stuck with us to this day.
That's so good that you include rattlers, because, you know, we all stick together. That big family that we make, I think you can hear everybody's experiences and being able to have that one connection that bonds us together. Now, when we go into talking about the Real Mama podcast, I've seen and looked at it and seen how it's just a safe space. It's a safe and it's an open space. How do you ensure that it remains a safe, open space for mothers to share their vulnerable experiences?
Yeah. So we are very vulnerable with our experiences. So there's nothing that's off the table for us to talk about. We're very transparent. If you have a question about anything, we're going to address it. We'll talk about it, as long as it's not offending any community or any person. But I think us giving ourselves in this space, being very vulnerable about our experiences, it opens the door for other mothers to do the same. So we had to start this trend, so to speak, of being transparent about motherhood. And we had people like, hey, I went through this, or I have a story that I also want to tell. So again, just us setting the foundation with transparency and vulnerability, it opened the doors for other mothers to do the same.
Absolutely.
I'm glad that you have that safe space. And then you also have some incredibly important topics that you all talk about, like domestic violence and postpartum depression. How do you approach those sensitive subjects, and what's been the reaction from your listeners?
Ooh,
Yes.
that is a good question.
So the idea behind the Real Mama Pod is to one day have a library of every single type of issue, high or low, you can have in motherhood, and anyone in that particular moment can pull from our library. And so domestic violence is one of them. October is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And the more awareness we bring to this situation, hopefully people feel safer and comfortable to actually leave those situations. A lot of times, even in motherhood, we feel isolated, we feel alone because we don't know anybody who's going through that. But if you can identify a person that's going through something, you feel like, okay, it's not just me. Oh, I'm not crazy, especially if you're being gaslighted. I know that's a buzzword right now, but it's not me. It is this person. I need to leave this place. So, yeah.
Yeah, you answered it.
Okay.
Now, you both explore the challenges of, juggling work, family, and self-care. Self-care is a big thing. I think everybody's been harping on Instagram and, on different social media platforms. But what strategies have both of you personally used that have been most helpful, especially for mothers as they navigate the different demands that life brings?
Yeah. So it is. We're still learning how to do that. But accountability has been one of our biggest, gateways to juggling life and juggling self-care. I want to shout out Applemania Bradford, who's a really good friend of ours, and she has an organization called Teacher Bay, and it is centered around self-care and taking care of yourself in this busy world. Despite all the things going around you, there are pillars of ways to take care of yourself. So I mentioned Applemania because she was a guest on our podcast, and in that episode, it clicked for both of us. Like, we think we're taking care of ourselves and we're not. Like, well, I'm not going to say we're not, but there are things that we can do better and more of to take better care of ourselves. So accountability has been the biggest piece of that puzzle when connecting our personal, busy work lives, motherhood lives, wife lives, into just taking that personal time to make sure we're taking good care of ourselves too. So accountability is the connection.
Accountability is huge. I think we're all still learning self-care because it is something we have to navigate. Now, as you're representing a lot of mothers, we see that, of course, there's motherhood is something that we all unite with as far as, a community of women. But for Black women to be able to have your voices out there to represent, what does that mean to you to be able to talk about issues that matter to Black mothers?
Yes, that is a great question. And as you may know, Black women are more likely to die given childbirth than any other demographic of women, and we don't take that lightly. So we've had episodes where doulas come onto our podcast and teach moms how to advocate for themselves throughout the whole process. And I think Kendra and I talk about this too, and we're trying to figure out how we're going to navigate this part, but we really want to talk to women before childbirth. Right? It starts kind of like when you're in college. You're not thinking about being a mom until you're like, settled in your career, you find a man, whatever your path is, right? A partner. And you're like, okay, now I want to have a baby. But a lot of times things are missed in these younger years that we can catch before we're in our 30s, right? And starting to have children. And so those conversations are not really happening. So we are really holding ourselves accountable to do more around that. So that way women are just prepared and really can figure out, yes, I want to be a mom, or no, I just want to be a rich auntie. But these are my options, because we didn't know our options until we were ready to have children.
Now, you're having these options and you're talking about this. I kind of want to circle back to what you said in the beginning, how y'all launched y'all scholarship, because that's huge. What led you to take this step, and how has this partnership with FAMU's Campus Child Care program come about? Were there any specific things along the way that were highlights for you or moments of joy?
Oh, yeah. So, well, like Devon mentioned, being mothers in today's world, being in quote established and having in quote some stability in life, it's still hard to be a mother. So the idea of being in college, having to tend to academics, having to tend to your children and any other responsibilities you may have, that thought alone boggled our minds. We're like, I don't know how these mamas are doing it, and we want to bless whoever that mother is. So we created the Nurturing Dreams Scholarship to support a mother in nurturing her dreams, but also giving her some sort of cushion to say, hey, your mama, you're doing a great job. We see you. We're cheering you on. Here's a token. Here's something that says, keep going. So that's the premise of this scholarship. Again, just having our own understanding and experience of being mothers, having gone through college and graduate school and knowing and understanding the demands of that, it's like we have to do something, and why not start at our home, which is here at FAMU.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Why do you believe it's important for you to support? Why do you believe it's important to support student mothers? And what do you hope this scholarship will mean for its recipients?
Yes, that's a great question. It's a $500 scholarship. It's not $1 million, but we all know.
We're going to get to $1 million.
Yeah. In this economy, everything helps, right? And so we just want to highlight these moms who are just doing a great job and showing up, because it's hard to show up for yourself. It's hard to show up for your kids. It's just hard to show up, especially in the state of the world right now, especially in the United States. But so we just want to pour into these moms and let them know they're not alone. We see you. On our platform on Instagram, we highlight a mom every week, our Mama Crush. And these are women who are killing it every single day. And sometimes as moms, we're looked over. Oh, you're just a mom. But you're not. You're a student, you're a mom, you're a daughter, you're an entrepreneur, whatever it is that you're doing the darn thing. And so just keep going.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to hear that you all have that. I'm big on supporting the community. Yeah. So that's just, it's always awesome when you can see people who genuinely care about giving back to others, because it means it comes from your heart. Now, it's coming from your heart. You're alumni. You're back at home, but you started the Real Mama podcast. Let's talk about future aspirations. What do you hope that the Mama Pod will be able to do in the future? Are you looking to address any other issues that you haven't already?
Yes, we have a long laundry list of things we want to do, but we definitely want to have research to support the Black maternal death rate that is going on right now. We want to be able to provide resources to women who may not know how to advocate for themselves. We know that is going to take time. We want to talk to legislators and see how we can change laws and make sure our voices are heard. Eventually, we want to have a documentary, So we have a long laundry list. I can go on. Kendra probably can go on, too, about all the things we want to do.
Sky's the limit.
Baby steps, but we'll get there for sure.
That's great. Now, I want everybody to be able to hear how they can get in contact, because I'm sitting here and I'm just amazed on, how many topics you all cover and just the transparency and the openness of the podcast. How can people listen, kind of get involved?
Yeah, so we are streamed on all major platforms. If you are tuning in, we do ask that you leave us a review. But we are on Apple, Spotify, iHeart, Google. Like I said, wherever you stream your podcast, you can find the Real Mama Pod. We are also very active on social media. So you can find us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, as well as Facebook, at The Real Mama Pod. If you want to email us, our email address is mama@therealmamapod.com. And you can also follow Devon and I on our personal pages. My page is Kendra Ferg, and that's KendraFerg_. And I will let Devon share her tag.
And I'm Dev, DEV as in Victor, Grace, GRACE_.
Now, the last question I'll ask you before we wrap up is, if you could go back to your younger self when you first started in your first years of being a mom, what is a lesson or something that you would tell yourself that you wish you told yourself when you were younger?
It's going to be okay, and give yourself grace, because there's no right answer to this. It's no right answer at all. And if you're doing your absolute best, you're a good mom. No matter what society tells you, you're a good mom.
Yeah, and along the lines of giving grace, give grace to whoever is supporting you in that journey, whether it's a partner or your child. Have grace with your kids, too, because it is hard. They will try you to no end, but giving yourself grace and those who are in your close-knit circle and support, whether, again, it's your partner or your kid itself, absolutely give everybody all the grace, because it is a lot of work, but it is worth it.
Devon and Kendra, thank you all so much for sharing so much about the Mama Pod with us. Y'all make sure that y'all are staying locked in with us. I'm so glad to have been able to interview and have this conversation with you all. Again, I'm Kaylin Jean-Louis for WANM 90.5, the Flavor Station. Make sure you keep it locked.
Bye. Thank you.